And good evening, and welcome to the Soul Citizens. I am GriffinGamingRPG, and we are back for another fun-filled week of Soul Citizens. And I am here with some wonderful people, and we have a very special guest joining us today. And that guest is on the far left, and that person is Buster the Destroyer. Hey, Buster. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I've been sick the last week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, and I'm still a little coughing a little bit, but I don't have COVID, so that's good.
Yeah, well, that's good. We're sorry that you're not feeling completely 100, but we're so happy that you are here with us today. We talked about this a little while ago, and we were both very excited when I heard that you could make it for the state. And I know there's a lot of stuff on our docket tonight that you're going to definitely want to talk about. So we're happy to have you joining us. And let's go ahead and start directly to her left with the man himself, Dark Knight 75. What's up, DK?
Yes. Hey, how you doing?
He's got the psychedelic look. That psychedelic look to him. I don't know what happened. But
am I getting the dance screen?
Oh, is that what it is? No,
Colossal passed it on to me.
Is that what happened?
How's everybody doing? Doing great.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you. And last but not least, our good friend, the ambassador of Star Citizen, fastcart. What's up, buddy?
Hi, everybody. I'm fastcart. Also known as FC. It's good to be here.
FC fastcart. I don't know. Is it fastcart FC or FC fastcart? I never remember.
Either one. I'm going to make my legal name fastcart FC, but it's just
okay.
Either one.
All right. I'll have to remember that. Okay. Well, listen, we've got a really great show. We want to tell all you guys thank you for joining us tonight on this Sunday. We are piling through the month of March, and we've got a lot to talk about tonight. We've got a great topic called Stealing from Sci-Fi. And just so you guys will know what the show is gonna be about. Hey, Scuba Steve, good to see you, buddy. And thank you, Evil. Evil, hey. Thank you. Oh, he followed. Thank you. This show is gonna be kind of covering a lot of topics, as you guys can see on the screen. We've got both a lot of fairly new and some classic sci-fi franchises that are listed, and we're going to be talking about these in particular. But of course, we're going to be open to talking about others that you may drop into chat. And there's going to be basically two questions I'm going to ask the panel tonight. One of them is going to be, do you see anything in this particular series that CIG might have, let's say, been inspired to put into the game? We won't say steal. We'll say that they were inspired. And then the next question I'm going to ask them is...
Stealing is in the title, though.
Yeah, well, that's in the title. But you notice it doesn't say anything about CIG. It just says stealing. It could be us stealing from sci-fi, right? Which is what we're going to do next. Yeah.
Okay.
That's going to be the second question. The second question is, what is it that we think could be taken from that particular franchise and might benefit Star Citizen? So it's going to be a twofold thing. We're going to chop through these, and at the end of the show, we're going to also kind of give you our honorable mentions that we think about. We're also going to do 2 giveaways tonight. So you guys hang around for those giveaways. Yep. We'll do some giveaways, give away some stuff. Okay. Let's see, before we jump into that, did anything happen this week, guys, in Star Citizen? We had a little bit of stuff, right? We had the stuff with Fire Sprite that popped up, right?
And 350 million.
Well, that was last week.
That was last week.
That was last week.
That was last week, my bad.
That's all right. That's okay. We'll put you in a time machine and bring you up a couple days. It's all right. Yeah. Buster,
there was a talk about everybody's been talking about that Clive Johnson post on Spectrum regarding
regarding the Austin, Texas office down there.
Yeah, that was a week ago too, though. I mean, we could dig that up if we want to, but it's kind of
like I said, Clive Johnson talk about server meshing. So
there you go. That's some good stuff there. That one. Yeah, thank you.
On Spectrum,
yeah. Why don't you elaborate a little bit on it, Buster, if you want?
I guess I honestly kind of glanced through it. I didn't, and to be honest, every time they talk about stuff like that on Spectrum or whatever, sometimes it's so technical that I'm like, server meshing soon. I learned pretty talk one day, but it seems hard. I mean, it seems like some people are like, oh, they're just teasing us again, but they basically are. I think somebody was asking, like, is it like you're still theorizing about how to do it, or you actually like have an idea of what you need to do and like you're in production mode? And they were saying, no, we're definitely in the production mode.
Yep.
Yep. So they said it's on the horizon this year, they think. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep.
That's what I got from it too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and I know people are very frustrated because we've been hearing about it for so long, But I also think that they're at the point, and they've made it very clear that and obviously they've made it clear by reducing the amount of people in the server that they've got to get it going now, because they've squeezed everything in there that they can possibly squeeze in. We lost Levski, we lost 10 people in the server, and so if this is going to advance at any level, that server meshing and iCache is, I believe they're going to push it through this year. When, that's the question, but it's vital. It's vital for the survival of what's going on, because I don't think people are going to last through 2021 at a 40 cap on a server. That's just not going to happen. So.
I think it'll be pushed in phases, you know, as most of these large, huge tech items will be pushed in. So I could see easily some things coming in mid-year and then more coming in throughout, and then they'll have a final say of, okay, we're going to turn it on now.
Yep. That sounds about right.
No, I got some news for you guys. iCache is a scam. It's never going to happen. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. You know, don't kid with that. Trust me. If you kid with a lot of things, but you want to set some people off, do not kid about iCache and server meshing. And nobody's going to end up finding any humor with that not showing up. Okay. So let's jump into it, guys. Let's start out with our first show. What we're going to do, guys, we're going to show you just a little bit of a piece of a trailer of each of these series, and then we're going to talk about them as we go along. And that was OM1. Thank you. Is hosting us. Thank you for the host. We appreciate that. And someone else gave out a host earlier. I'm sorry I didn't see it fast enough on the screen.
Scuba Steve.
Was it Scuba Steve? Oh, Scuba Steve. Thank you, Scuba Steve. All right. And Dr. Drones, thank you. Thank you for that host as well. You guys are awesome. We appreciate you. So let's jump into it, guys. We're going to go to the very, very first of our listings here. Oh boy, everybody's hosting. The community manager, Steve. Thank you, community manager Steve, for that as well. We appreciate it. Let's go to our very first in our series that we're going to talk about. And this one, now VerseCon. Everybody's hosting us. VerseCon, Texas. Thank you, VerseCon. We appreciate you guys. Steve, you're being bad over there. And then Major Static, thank you for the host as well. Boy, oh boy, they're helping broadcast us across the verse. We appreciate it. Okay, so by the way, there was a request that Jerry Skate is now hosting us. Thank you, Jerry Skate. There was a request last week, because for those of you who were here for our show last week, that we would, in a way, tone down James Brown. Zulu Group. Thank you, Zulu Group. Thank you for the follow. So we want you to know.
Why would you ever tone down James Brown?
I know. Trust me.
James Brown is
like that man could never be toned down.
Buster, thank you for the host as well.
Well, you missed it. He broke his hips.
Yeah. What happened, Buster, was last week we had two people who decided to subscribe for us to give out gifts. One gave out 25 gifts. Another one gave 10. So we had to listen to James Brown 35 times at max volume. And so, to make a long story short, we brought him down a little bit. We shortened him out a little bit so that, because we couldn't even talk. We literally had to just stop talking until James Brown got through dancing and screaming in the mic. So this week we've made some adjustments. So hopefully it'll be a little bit better if we get any subscriptions. Okay, so let's jump into the very first one. This is War of the Worlds. Okay, so I'm going to stop that one because I know a lot of people had not seen the BBC version. But they, unlike in the Tom Cruise version, where we didn't really get to see what they did to aliens, in this one, we do see it attack someone. Let me give a little background on War of the Worlds. This was like the very first sci-fi movie I ever saw as a kid. It's always remained with me. George Powell's version of it, of course, not the Tom Cruise one. I'm not that young. But it really had a major impact on me. H.G. Wells did in general, but that one and the Time Machine were big for me. So let me ask you guys from War of the Worlds, any of the movies, any of the series. There was a TV series that came out in the 80s that was called War of the Worlds as well.
That was exactly what I grew up on.
Yep, that was a very cool series. Yeah, very cool series. Is there anything that you guys know, and I'm going to start with Buster, that kind of, when we start thinking about some type of alien race invasion, is there anything that you see in Star Citizen or in the lore that you've heard of, or something that you think we could look at to come out of a movie like this and bring into the Star Citizen universe?
To be honest, I'm not really quite. War of the Worlds is not one like the TV show or the movie that I am very super familiar. I mean, obviously, I've done War of the Worlds with you guys, the radio play, but and so that's really all I have is the radio play. But I can't think of anything in the lore or anything that relates to it as much, but I mean, I'm hoping you guys know, because I'm going to pass it back to you guys, because that one's not one I'm as familiar with.
And guys, just so you'll know, we all have not seen everything, so some of us have seen some things and some of us haven't, and we're going to be relying on you, chat, to kind of fill in gaps as well. So if we don't say something about something, we're not going to make it up. We're going to say, hey, that's not one of the ones I saw. So that's cool, Buster. Dark Knight, what about you?
Okay, so I maybe recall the one from the 80s, but I'm not 100% because I was probably a little younger. I do remember the one from Tom Cruise. If I could think of something from that movie that I could pull from, I don't know if I could see a whole lot there aside from creature kind of things, things having to deal with animals and things like that we could see kind of pulled over, large aliens, large monsters, things like that. Maybe it's a little bit more closer to our time than it would be, say, far into sci-fi future. So I think it's not as much to pull from there, but I think there's some aspects of story and lore that they could put into something like Star Citizen. Okay. FC, what about you?
I'm thinking about suspense and jump scares. Those are the two the things you can pull from Waterworld, and the sense of realism that you can't tell whether or not. Immersion. That's the word I'm looking for. That you can't tell the reality from fiction.
Okay. I think for me, the theme that was in all of these, it was the fact that the war machines, as they called them in all the series, the war machines they couldn't do anything against them. They were formidable. In the humans, or the people on Earth launched everything they had against them. In the 1953 Gerald Powell version of it, they even dropped a nuclear bomb on the thing, and they kept trucking, they kept moving. And so if you remember, the reason why they were able to defeat them was because of bacteria in our atmosphere, but we didn't. It was nature that defeated them. But my point is that to find an enemy that is so formidable that no matter what we do against it, we might lose. Someone mentioned about the Kurthak in here, and we don't know very much about them, but it would be interesting to find a race or a planet or a system that has maybe a group of people that you just don't want to mess with. Buster, do you remember, and we'll talk about Star Trek later, but do you remember species, what was it called? Species 4579 or whatever they were?
Like 572 or something like that.
Them?
Yeah.
You remember, you couldn't do nothing with them. Remember, they were, the Borg ran from them. So, and we get to Star Trek, we can talk about
they're like one of those groups that are like, we're good. We're just good.
Right, exactly. Zaylin, thank you for the 155 bits, and Arity, again, thank you for the 5 gift subs. Okay, all right, so let's move on to our next one then. I think this is one that I think folks will be much more familiar with. But let's go back to Buster on this. Let's talk about Star Wars. Any influences that you see in Star Citizen.
I see that you're all big Star Wars fans. Now, I actually one of the things that's really there's a lot of things I think in Star Citizen that take notes from Star Wars, and one of them here most recently is as they're working on like the what is it the like the home outposts, like the one the
homesteads, the homesteads.
The homesteads, thank you. Homesteads. The homestead, like all the stuff that they've been showing us in sprint reports on their progress. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh, like especially the circular one with like kind of like they're like, is it a bar? Is it a this? Is it that? That remind me a lot of like the cantina, because the cantina had that circular bar. Just so many little. But the homesteads are the big ones for me right now.
Yeah,
and the most recent, and then of course the Mercury Star Runner is the hallways. That hallway going to the bridge of the Mercury Star Runner, I think is 100% supposed to emulate the hallways in the Millennium Falcon. And I would say that in lore, I don't know, I'm not a super lore nerd for Star Citizen, but I bet that there's some political like lore that kind of matches up, like, or not matches up, but maybe takes a few notes from Star Wars, and especially in what's it called? the prequel trilogy, because there was a lot of politics in that. Not so much in the three original movies,
Right.
New Hope and all that, but there's so much politics in those, and I wonder if there's some political notes that CIG takes there too. So I guess those are my answers. So
that's good. That's
there you
good.
go.
Is there anything you'd like to see them pull from the Star Wars series?
Oh, I'll tell you what I don't want them to pull from Star Wars: lightsabers, because oh my god,
those are awesome.
I know
I love lightsabers just like the next person, but the thing is that they're too iconic in Star Wars to be pulled into other things and not be like, oh look, it's Star Wars,
I mean, you have Mark Hamill. How can you not have a lightsaber?
See, there you go. Well, you got Mark Hamill, but like, I don't know. If I was to have it pull something from Star Wars, I suppose I can't think of anything. I mean, there's so much in Star Citizen that I think I was already pulling from it that I'm not even mentioning. And I'm not as super into Star Wars. I'm not a huge oh my god, I want to see exactly this thing in Star Wars, like in Star Citizen from Star Wars. But there you go.
Okay. Dark Knight, what about you? What is there anything that you see that's in Star Citizen already you feel might have been influenced by Star Wars?
Actually, I want to just agree with Buster here on the part of the politics. I think in the first episode and throughout the first two episodes of the prequels, we kind of saw a lot of politics coming into play, and I think I kind of see that a little bit in the lore. But going to what we are pulling, I think there's tons of stuff that is being pulled from Star Wars as far as what is influence and what am I looking for? Inspiration to help build out the Star Citizen universe. You can see it in the planets. I can find Hoth out there. I can find you've got Tatooine. You've got Coruscant. You've got all of these different flavors or aspects from Star Wars. Not really emulating so much Star Wars, but I think it's the idea of living. Of having that Star Wars universe feel, but in a different way in Star Citizen. Okay. And as far as what more they can pull from it, I don't think they need to pull anything more. I think they've got pretty much all they need, and they just need to write their own story.
Okay. FC, how about you?
I agree about the Star Runner. It looks like the classic Millennium Falcon look. The same planet looks like Star Wars with Tatooine. And Messer from the lore, Messer, the Bat Messer, could be someone like Palpatine, from the lore. As far as what I want to see or what they could pull, I want to see our character shoot first. I don't want to see any crap about them, our opponent or whoever shooting first. I want to shoot first, and especially the Squadron 42 game. But as far as the Force and powers and lightsabers, I rather than specific lightsaber, I would prefer to see telekinesis or some kind of because it's like 900 years in the future. I'm pretty sure they would have gene fights or whatever special powers into people, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
Can I get the Emperor's,
one more thing. I do want to see some cheesy lines. The cheesy lines are a must.
The what?
Cheesy line. Yes, we got to have more of those.
Okay.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, not necessarily magic. Jay, not necessarily magic, but just telekinesis. That's science.
I think for me, again, like you guys already mentioned many of the obvious things that they've pulled from Star Wars. I think for me, the one thing I would love to see is, and right now I'm in the process of going back and watching the Clone Wars and going through it, and I'm really amazed at how much characters that popped up in the movies are now being explored deeper in Clone Wars. I've seen just about almost every of the alien races at some point, storylines being built around them, and I would love to see the Star Wars or the Star Citizen verse populated with aliens. When we walk around a space station, I don't want to walk around with just humans. I want to see other groups of folk from other systems, NPCs, and I mean, maybe one day it'll get to a point where players can take on the role of other races, but I would love to see greater diversity in the sense of, if I'm in a certain area, I know we have the Xi'an and some other folks in the game right now, but I'd love to see even more than that. I would love to see it populated with, maybe 10, 15 different races of folk that are NPCs, and that we have to learn the customs of those groups, and when we go into their areas, and even the things we buy from them reflected in that same way. So that's the one thing I would like to see.
Languages, things like that.
Yeah, the languages, just the greater diversity that the Star Wars universe has. Once you get outside of the humans, you realize, wow, there's a lot of folks that make up the Republic, and it'd be great to see that same thing happen with the UEE. So that's what I'll say about Star Wars. Okay, we all hit that one.
One quick thing. Yeah. I think that they really want to pull from the Mandalorian just for bounty hunting.
Well, I mean, bounty hunting is not. I mean, everybody keeps mentioning the Mandalorian, but bounty hunting's been bounty hunting. I mean, he's not doing anything other than doing it with a Western feel. And so I'm not seeing anything that different than bounty hunting. In other words, what you do in bounty hunting. Of course, I think it's inspired a lot of us, but they were already working on bounty hunting before, Mandalorian came out. So I just think that everybody's just kind of pumped up because it's the Mandalorian, GoMab, I agree with you. When I talk about aliens, again, not humanoid. I mean, whatever it is, walking around, they could be hopping around, crawling around, whatever the case may be, but definitely something that is non-human. Not the typical thing that we've seen. Okay, here's a series that I'm not that up on. Buster, let me start with you on The Expanse. Anything you got on it? I don't know how much of it you watched or haven't watched, but I'll throw it at you first.
It's funny. I'm in a show, for those of you who know, I'm actually in a tabletop RPG on the Spice Must Roll, which is, what we do. Like it's based on, around Astropub channel. Mm-hmm. But we do the Expanse Actium, which this year we'll do our third season of that. And it's funny because I've only gotten about partway through the second season. I've been real slow with this show for whatever reason. And not that I don't like it, it's great. But I guess for me, like the big thing, and I don't know if this, because the popularity of this show kind of came up like at this, I think a little after Star Citizen started developing, and I from what I've heard, Chris Roberts is a fan of The Expanse, and very, I think, like. I would say, I don't know if, because there's a lot of stuff about this show that I think kind of came around at the same time to start, like there were a lot of the same ideas, just not like pulled from each other. If that makes sense. So I feel like the realism of The Expanse, like okay, well, in the future, this is how people would, this is like the belt, like this, for example, like the Belters and the way their bodies are because they're born and raised in low gravity. I think that's the kind of thing that maybe also inspires CIG a little bit, because that is, I think Star Citizen like has a certain amount of like reality, or it has a certain amount of realism it wants to get out, and I think Expanse kind of has the same goal as far as this goes. And it's just, I don't know. I can't tell you a lot, but I do think it's a very political show. Again, politics in this show, but I just feel like they're both kind of coming up, but they've been coming up at the same time. So for me, it's hard to say like what are they pulling out of it, because I feel like it literally the same time, and they kind of have a lot of the same ideas. Okay, cool. So, alrighty.
Dark Knight, what about you? Anything you see that they may have incorporated into Star Citizen, or that they should put into Star Citizen?
Let's see. Okay, so I've watched all The Expanse, and talking. So it's I think there's some things that they did pull from The Expanse, and I think it really comes down to kind of again with Star Wars, but it's more of a feel of what you get in the game. Like there's just this feeling aspect when I watch The Expanse that I am there. That I'm part of it, that I could feel actually. Knowing what it actually feels like to be there. Like I can walk around in those locations, and I could see that aspect in, say, Star Citizen, where it feels like space. It feels like an environment. and there's a realism aspect that comes out of that. The one thing Expanse does well is portray a realistic aspect of what it would be like to live in space and travel in our own solar system. And I think mi pensa that that there's a lot they could pull. Languages, for one thing, I think is something they can pull. The Belter language is a beautiful Creole, but we're getting that kind of with the Banu language, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot that they are already pulling, but it's more in aspect and ambiance, not so much technology and things like that.
Okay, very cool.
Some of the lighting looks similar too.
Yeah, it's dark.
Yeah.
Okay. FC, what about you?
One thing I've seen kind of similar, is the relationship between Terra and Earth. Kind of remind me of the relationship between Earth and Mars in the Expanse. So the political intrigue I see is similar, and yeah, like Buster said, they did come up around the same time. Like, I started reading the Expanse maybe 2014, and as far as I know, I am one book ahead of the current Amazon season. So I'm like 1 or 2 books behind everything. But yeah, I especially I love the series, I love the show, I love the books. But also the other thing, diversity. There's a lot of diversity in the Expanse, and I would like to see. I mean, there is diversity in Star Citizen, but I would see more of it. If that makes sense.
Okay. All right. Very cool. And I'm the one guy who doesn't have very much to say because I've only watched episode 1 of The Expanse. I haven't gotten past that. I can't believe I just heard that. I know, it's terrible. I've only gotten past episode 1.
One thing I did like about The Expanse is that they advertise it as being Game of Thrones in space. That was not that is not a good way to advertise it or to promote it.
James A. Corey, S.A. Corey or whatever, is 2 different writers that write these books together. And I believe that one of them used to be George R. R. Martin's assistant while he was writing some of the earlier Game of Thrones books. So I think, and I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's true. And that, obviously, maybe, when you work for George R. R. Martin, you'll kind of learn a few tricks.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that maybe some of that comes from the fact that both those series are very story heavy? Do you think that maybe that's the assation that people are making with it?
Yeah, and the political intrigue.
Yeah.
And character heavy, too. I think character heavy.
If you just want to if you just watch the promotion, it was just for the sex and the violence and stuff like that. That's how the commercial put it.
Okay.
Face, you make a good point. I like that. Actually, you were going to say that too, Griff, about the old alien tech and finding something like that out there in Star Citizen. That would be really cool.
I always say that. I always hope you just find you go somewhere and there's something that only you're the first person to discover it, and it causes a whole game event or something later down the line. That would be amazing.
That would be very cool.
Yeah, great point for this.
Would be. Okay, let's move on to our next one. We're going to go back to an oldie. Okay, let's talk about this one a little bit. Buster.
Yeah,
2001. Did you ever get to see 2001?
Yes, I have. And what's funny is a quick aside. There's a part in the trailer where, and then you see it in the movie where it looks like it's like a space station off in the distance, with the two wheels. I think it's about to come up in the shots, and it's I actually painted that once for a show about Hollywood, and it was supposed to look like a strip of film, and I had to repeat that right there with the blue planet. I had to repeat that image like 5 times to make it look like a film, like a strip of film as a backdrop piece. Anyway, so this is just a dumb thing I did that I remembered, but I would say that, and in fact that's that I mentioned, I would say specifically the shape of Port Olisar, I think was inspired by that. The two wheels and the kind of the long spoke. And I think that there's a lot of sci-fi. It's not just Star Citizen. I think there's so much sci-fi that's happened in the last 40 years that's been hugely inspired by this. And so it's hard to say because at a certain point it's where does this one end and everything else begin sometimes for me. But where it's a computer malfunction flashing, we kind of have those on our dashboards, and all the little lights everywhere.
The 3001 series.
I think Yes, I think there's so many things that get pulled from this specifically, and I can't think of anything very specific other than what I've already mentioned. But I think there's so many shots in this movie that are probably, I bet if you looked at Star Citizen footage and trailers and things like that, you could probably pull a lot of these shots. And be like, oh, they totally did that shot from this movie. Because I think this is one of those movies where it's so visually stunning that it's hard to not, like, once in a while, like, make an homage to it. So I do think that there's way more homages to this than I can even think of. So, but as far as what I would like to see pulled from it, I mean, gosh, the very bold colors in this movie.
Color's great.
Okay. Dark Knight, how about you?
I'm sure you probably can understand this, because the first time when I saw the trailer pop up, I thought Elite Dangerous, just because I've been playing it for so long, which was heavily inspired by 2001 and the whole Arthur C. Clarke series. But Buster, you made some good points, because I was trying to find a way to look at 2001 and see where I could find some aspects in Star Citizen, and Port Olisar obviously was a very, very big one. But then, the colors that you mentioned, I like to see some more of the brighter colors in the game. It is kind of a dark game that we have. Some pop-out colors would be really nice to see in Star Citizen. I'm trying to think of other things, because it's been a while, one, since I've seen this film, and two, I'm still kind of trying to see similarities here that I see in Star Citizen, but I think it's the heavy sci-fi that is there, because 2001 and the one that we're talking about next are two films that have really pushed sci-fi out there to the masses, like outside of the television series. Most of us know of these two when you think of hardcore sci-fi, and I think these two, I think it influenced the design and styles and aspects of Star Citizen itself. Sorry.
Okay. FC, how about you?
I agree with Port Olisar. I didn't think of it until Buster mentioned it, but yeah, it's a dead ringer. Just like just longer than a station. But other than that, it's a dead, almost a twin. The Connie commercial. Remember the Tiny commercial? I think that was heavily influenced by 2001.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I think 2001 or 20 years ago. I'm still looking for some of the stuff that they had in the movie that we were supposed to have. But other than that, okay, 2001 was a slow movie. That reminded me of how slow it's taking the game to come out.
Okay. I guess for me, there's two things about it. I think you hit it, Buster, in the sense of the beauty and the artistry of it. I agree 100%. Visually stunning. And someone mentioned this earlier, that Star Citizen often can be visually stunning. Every once in a while, you get in that situation where you're seeing, a star cresting over the ridge of a planet or a moon, and it's amazing to sit and watch. I did like the fact that if you remember in the movie, they had a Pan Am jet that was like a passenger ship that would be similar to what we would have for the Genesis Starliner.
Yeah.
So I thought that was something that was interesting that they did that. And then the fact that you do hear breathing when they're in the helmets, that we have that in the game, that there's an awareness that in this movie, when Dave's breathing speeds up or slows down, when he's on his way to turn Hal off, you hear the pacing of his breathing. You could hear his nervousness. You could hear, when he was getting ready to eject himself back into the ship. And so even in the game, breathing is something that they've put there quietly behind us that kind of audibly lets us know what the status of our character is. So I like the fact that that's something that they have in. Now let's talk about the freakier side of this, and it's the monolith. The series series of the monolith in the first movie, and then 2010 they tried to resolve what the monolith was about. But to me, I love the fact that they put some element of mystery in the game that we didn't know what it meant. And I would love to see something in Star Citizen, a location. Someone mentioned this about a civilization, something that we just don't know what the heck it is. and that over time it takes a while for us to figure out why this is here. You know, who put it there? Why is it here? Is it significant? What happens if we mess with it? You know, is it meant to be messed with? If we mess with it, does it trigger something to some other intelligence or some other race? I mean, there's a whole lot of things that could come out of something like a monolith, you know, some object that's in the game that once we get there, maybe we've set off an alarm for somebody. So I would love to see something
that's kind of
like
what
that.
we were talking about with The Expanse just a moment ago. The same thing. Like, it's, you know, and again, there's some Expanse. You know, maybe Expanse was a little inspired by this as well.
I think so too. Yeah, absolutely. There's a
And
lot
also,
of
I want to say that I think Dave's face is one. Like, I feel like there's a face that's extremely similar to Dave's in the game. I feel like it's one of those-
I can see that.
Looking at him, going, "Oh my god, I think that's a face in the game."
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
So many.
That's cool stuff. Okay.
So one more thing about the AI. You could say that the trouble that they had with the AI in 2001 is probably some of the reasons why they don't have AI in the game.
Well, I mean, we just got the new Imperator who really wants to get an AI, so there you go.
And that subject came up. I was just talking with Colossal today, and he was saying now that we have that new Imperator, who knows, right? That could shift in some way. You know, they could play out later on in the game that if someone who favors technology decides to change that rule. Or we don't know whether or not that there will be some type of black market version of it that's being done somewhere, even though the UAE says no. So there's a lot of avenues they could go in relation to something like that. But okay, 2001, a classic. If you haven't seen it, guys, make sure you watch it. You know, be well rested. But it's worth it.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it's a good film. Okay, let's go to this next one. Now it's kind of interesting because when Alien came out, I think now Alien is one of those films that, to me, like a lot of films, it's you hate to. I know it sounds terrible when people use this as an excuse, but it's like you had to be there, right?
Yeah.
When this film came out, there had never been a horror sci-fi film, not at this level. And so now people watch it. Yeah, people watch it now, and it's kind of like, no big deal, you know, blah blah blah. But back, it's kind of like the first time people saw Star Wars. You know, if you were there in '77, the dynamic was totally different than when the prequels came out, because there was the biggest thing that we had seen had been 2001, which was, you know, not a big action film or anything like that, right? So now when we get to Aliens, it's the same thing, very dark science fiction. Where before science, you know, we had seen kind of everything being very clean and neat in things like Star Trek and other sci-fi series. You know, Alien went into this, like, driving this rust bucket, you know, salvage or mining ship, a total different feel. And it was the first time we'd seen something like that. So let's talk about this. We can talk about the franchise itself, right? Not just the first film, but Aliens 2, any of the other ones. Buster, let me start with you. Impact, you see anything in
I do. I mean, I've seen like Prometheus and things like that. I've never seen the original Alien, but I do, just seeing the trailer, I do see a lot of visuals that remind me of Star Wars. Like, there's some Drake ship in there. You know what I mean? Like, there's some Drake ships in there. I think there was one ship that I saw earlier that kind of, the shape of it reminded me a little bit of the Valkyrie. And but there's, so I see a lot of, like, I just see a lot of visual elements in the scene, like the scenes and the sets that remind me of Drake ships, that remind me of like a couple, like SBK and things like that. And so I would say, yeah, there's probably a lot of influence from this game, and especially, again, the lighting. I think there's a little bit of lighting elements in there that remind me of all this. But overall, I mean, yeah, it seems like there's probably a lot pulled out of this movie that I just don't know as well as probably some of you guys do. But as far as things I would want to see, well, I'll tell you, I definitely don't want to see these aliens, because they are not my favorite at all.
We're going to be hiding in the caves for Green Eye Gal.
I like Star Trek. I like things to be peace, love, and federation, okay? Or in my case, warriors, blood, and Klingon. So
I would think you'd find that as a challenge, being a Klingon, that you would love to run into an alien like that.
Not when I'm playing Star Citizen, okay? I can only take so much.
Okay.
Deep down, I'm like, it's gross, and it's got slime coming out. Like, it makes me, it'll freak me out. It's gonna gross me out.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I want to go back to something that who was it who said it earlier? It was Surasawa said this earlier. said, how would these sorts of movie plots like 2001 and Alien be different if the writers had correctly predicted the internet and the information revolution? How might they have changed the plot with these aspects of being there? We could go down a long thing on that, but I don't want to ignore that. But
series on that, I'm sure.
Exactly. But this is what I will say to that, though. It's not just those films. It's not just the internet. You can take something as simple as 2001, whereas Kubrick, when he made that film, it seems so far reaching, right? And by the time 2001 did come around, we barely scratched the surface of anything that was in the vision of that. I think the biggest thing we had, and even they had this during Kubrick's time, was telephones that had, video monitors where you could talk to somebody. They had those in the 60s, but they made it seem like it was something great 45 years later. And part of that comes from the fact that, and people have talked about the fact that the space race, he built it based upon the fact that the space race had just kicked off with Kennedy, and they kind of thought that we would just continue pushing. But 2 years later or 3 years later, the space race died. And so everything came to a screeching halt. And it's only been just within this last generation that we've started back reconsidering what happens if we start going back into space. So we've lost 50 years, basically of just kind of sitting around twiddling our thumbs, which has also kind of limited the advancement of us going into space as well. Yeah. So anyway, but like Buster said, we could talk about that forever. Okay. Let me jump into
a whole different show.
Yep. Dark Knight. Let me jump to you with Alien, the Alien franchise. What you got?
So, as I said before, I have not actually seen the first Alien. I think I saw, I don't know when Alien versus Predator was, but I think that was like one of the first ones. I can't remember if I was so young that my mother didn't let me see the original Aliens, and I just never got around to seeing it.
Okay.
I can see through the trailer aspects of Alien in Star Citizen. Just like Buster said, I could see obviously the lighting, but I can also see like some of the technology of the ships. Isn't the Reclaimer kind of
very reminiscent of
Alien from what I hear?
Absolutely.
And then of course I saw somebody mention the crawl spaces in the MSR. I would say like the crawl spaces in the Starfare would be kind of very similar to those. Yeah, I do see a lot of Alien and inspiration in Star Citizen as far as modeling and ships and lighting and things like that. I would like to see alien races more, those, but everybody's telling me go watch Alien and Aliens. I'll do that tonight.
Watch the director's cut of it if you can. Watch the director's cut of it.
Everybody's like, damn, come on. I know, I got to see that. Yeah, I really do. I have to see those. But
and let me say this: the reason why we want you to see it is, again, because it was a turning point for sci-fi. Where Star Wars was science fiction fantasy, this was science fiction. This was a different type of, it was a different brand. And so, but to see the director's cut is definitely a better version, because you'll see Ridley Scott's true vision of what the film should have been. And I think you'll enjoy it. Okay.
So,
and yes,
I know.
Okay. Fastcart, how about you? What you got to say about Alien or Alien, the franchise?
I agree with what they say, but all you said about the visuals and the lighting. I agree with what you say about the ship. The Sulaku remind me of the Reclaimer. I'm going to say something I haven't heard so far. The Banduol are a little Geigerous. They're a little bit. They look a little bit like an alien from the movie. A big thing that I want to cut on is that corporate greed and corporate irresponsibility. Like OrCorp and stuff like that. You see, I think that's I don't want to say it's heavily, but I can see a big similarity between the corporate greed and corporate irresponsibility from Alien and also Avatar. That's another James Cameron movie, and Star Citizen, because you have ArcCorp that caring about people, and there's similarities in that. And also AI, again, you have an android or androids in the Alien series. That's maybe like the new Mecha could usher in a Bishop. Actually, we have Bishop in the Freelancer commercial.
In the Freelancer commercial?
Henriksen, he's in the Freelancer commercial.
Oh, that's his voice. He's not in the commercial.
Yeah, his voice.
No, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. Okay. All right. For me with this series, this was a film that, again, if you're around back then, it was definitely something that made people tense up and their stomachs tense up. not just because of the large alien, but even when it was in its infant state, the smaller state, the face hugger, that was scary. So a creature like that would be scary to me. The whole thing of something that has multiple arms or some type of arachnid looking thing would just kind of spook out anybody, I think, in general. The aliens I thought were, and not just because of the fact that they were predators, but there was this whole dynamic of them creating the aspect of what happened when you killed one, the acid blood, things of that nature, things that were not the typical humanoid type of creature. These were true aliens, and they were intelligent. We didn't know why they came into our system. They did have a purpose for coming into the system. So to me, it's kind of like, I would love to, normally we see it from a human standpoint, we see something like that and we want to call it a creature. We want to call it some type of animal. But this was a thinking, machine. I mean, it was a killing machine. So to have something like that in the game, very unhuman, something that's very intelligent, something that, is very formidable. It's not that we can't fight it and win, but you better be sharp if you go against them. And I think, as you mentioned, this fastcart, the Van Duel kind of reflect that a little bit. There was a form of communication with these creatures. There's a lot of stuff that was embodied with this that they could bring into the series. But I agree with you. The Nostromo definitely reflected of the Reclaimer. The dropship, as you mentioned, fastcart, definitely reflective of the Valkyrie. I think Buster mentioned that earlier too. So definitely some influences there. But I would love to see the scare factor, that there are some places that you go into. Scare. I'm talking about, no, I ain't talking about as a jump scare. I'm talking about you go to salvage some ship and one of these things, something like that, is in the ship. I mean, and when scared. Nice. Yeah, I mean, scared. That would be fun. Yeah, I don't want a jump scare. I want something that there's a risk factor, because there's certain places you just got to be careful when you go there. So, okay.
And GG ain't having none of that.
All right, let's hit. We got one more to hit, and then we're going to get ready. We're right on time. We're going to be doing our giveaway in just a couple seconds, guys. So let's look at our next one here. Let's go to Buster. Buster, this is Blade Runner, Ridley Scott again. Yeah. Any thoughts about it?
Immediately, and I think when ArtCorp first came in a game, a lot of people made the comparison with Blade Runner.
Still my answer.
I would say same thing with Hurston. I think there's some elements about this I see on Hurston, like especially like those at the like those just the shots of the city and all the lights. So I would say any like city content in Star Citizen honestly has like a little bit of a Blade Runner feel to it, or a little like it feels like, oh, okay, there's an element there from Blade Runner. It's been a super long time since I've seen Blade Runner, so I don't remember the story well enough to remember any like specific details. I know it's our do androids dream of electric sheep, but those would be my big two answers. And as far as like pulling something out of it, I mean, I feel like there's already so much, at least visually, from Blade Runner. And again, I can't remember story very well, but it's been a while. It's been a very long time. And I'm going to go get my battery pack for my light.
Okay. All right. Dark Knight, how about you, Blade Runner?
Oh, yeah. I could see a lot in Star Citizen that came from Blade Runner. I think the designers of Star Citizen loved the style and there's just the ambiance of Blade Runner, and you can see it in ArtCorp, you can see it in Lorville. It just seems the lighting of this of Blade Runner, you can see the aspects of that in their different areas of the game. The soundtrack, I gotta say, I absolutely love the soundtrack in Blade Runner. Just that kind of ethereal type of sci-fi music, it's just quintessential sci-fi. There's just a lot of Blade Runner influence in that I see. And if there was anything I could pull from here that I would add more to Star Citizen, it might be the more aspects of AI and actually going into we were talking about that before, diving into it. What AI could be possible. Are we going to be able to have AI robots ourselves, that walk around and do things on our ship, or is it just, humanoid NPCs? I think somebody had mentioned in chat before about having non-human AI or something like that. I think humanoid AI. Yeah, I think there's a lot of Blade Runner. I definitely see in Star Citizen, like right there, that scene right there. I could see the noodle house. There's a lot there.
Okay, Jade, I'm sorry. We had disabled links in Twitch, but I forgot to do it in Nightbot, so I'm sorry that Nightbot blocked you there. So, but I just turned it off. I completely forgot about Nightbot. Sorry about that. FC, what about you with Blade Runner as well?
Like tears in the rain, man. Like tears in the rain. Like you've already touched on this. Some of the planets look like Blade Runner. I mean, if that's not a big pull, I don't know what it is. Story has again. I'm talking about AI again. So that's a big, common influence between all of these so far. So my question is, which version of Squadron 42 we're going to play is going to be canon? Because there's like 5 different versions of Blade Runner. So it's not more. So it's like this is the reason why Chris Roberts didn't want to have publishers. He wanted his vision to be true, and he would only want to do it one time. So
no, that's a good point. That's a very good point. For me, for Blade Runner, I think Buster said this, everybody said this. R-Corp, as soon as you walk through the dark areas of R-Corp, all I can do is think of Blade Runner, particularly because there's the different languages. Some of us know that they use some Asian languages as kind of filler for right now. But the fact that there's this diversity of culture when you walk through those streets, and you've got the wet, if you guys remember Blade Runner, it was raining all the time. The fact that there's always this wet ground when you're in ArcCorp. The Hurston building definitely reminds me of the headquarters that was in Blade Runner. So there was, and again, even the music, you could tell that Victor Camacho, you could tell there was a little bit of something there for him. That kind of was a throwback or reminiscent of the influences there. So, but as far as, when you look at the city here with this opening scene from the movie where you see that, it is. And now when you go into Hurston at night, unfortunately it's not populated as much, but to be able to see Hurston or ArcCorp where you just see this expanse of just lights everywhere, is gorgeous. And Hurston, like you said, with the flaming chimneys and everything would be so cool to see. So there's obviously influence. The picture of the geisha who's projected on the building. We've got the holograms. We've got the big tall hologram that exists in R-Corp when you come in. So you can definitely see the influences. And then, of course, the vehicles that travel through the air. We see that as well. So a lot of influences, obviously. Is there anything that they would pull from this? I don't know if there's anything I would want to see pulled from here because, as you mentioned earlier, fastcart, so much of the story was built around this issue with the AI. That was the big thing, right? AI that just got to a point where you couldn't detect them, and what the issues were in relation to these androids being able to build emotions over time. But anyway, that's the classic there. Let's see. Let's go ahead and jump into. If you guys got anything else on this one, if not, we're going to go ahead and do our giveaway if that's okay. You guys,
I just want to say something real quick. So someone did a trailer for ArcCorp that's really reminiscent of Blade Runner. I forget the title of it. I forget who did it, but try to look for it. It's really well done.
Really?
It's not a machinima, just a trailer. It's like an overhead view of ArcCorp, and it looks very much like Blade Runner.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, fastcart, why don't you announce what this giveaway is while I'm getting it set up, please? That would be helpful.
Okay. I believe the first one we're giving away is a P-52 Merlin, and I'm not sure this one is LTI, but if you want,
we're going to do both.
Merlin,
you're going to do both. We're doing both together.
Oh, we're going to do both together? So
yes.
We're doing P-52 Merlin and a P-72 Archimedes. The Merlin won't be LTI, the Archimedes will be LTI.
Oh, wow. Uber Nerd just gave us a raid. Uber Nerd, thank you. A raid was 55. Just in time.
Thank you.
Wow, just in time.
Nerd. Hi, everybody from Uber Nerd Stream. Welcome.
Thank you, Uber Nerd, as always, the man. Listen, we're going to put in exclamation point docking. Exclamation point docking. We're giving away this P-52 and P-72 because you guys know in 313 the constellations will finally be able to have docking. Those ships that you could have cared less about will now be great for doing scouting missions. I don't know about defending your constellation, but they'll be great for scouting missions and letting them drop down and go find good landing places and safe places to go. So going to exclamation point docking if you're interested in the package of a P-72 and a P-52, the Merlin and the Archimedes. And once again, the Archimedes has LTI. The Merlin, what did I say the Merlin was? Fastcart?
3 months.
3 months.
3 months.
I haven't seen a 3-month insurance since I don't even know when. So that tells you how far back. Yeah, I know. That's how far back that ship goes. That ship goes back to 2015. I already know what the date is on that ship. So if you guys want to get in on that, we're going to get ready to do our raffle for those 2 ships together. You'll get them together. All right. Cannot buy a P-72 in game. Yeah, right now. But right now we've got them, so we're going to be able to do this for you guys. So everybody's in at this point. We're going to give another 10 seconds on this giveaway, and we're going to let Buster say when I should push the button. I'm going to leave it to her. Give me 1 second here to get myself together here, Buster.
Guys, y'all better start to type in the exclamation point docking. Get in there. I can only delay it for so long.
All right,
Keep coming.
Buster's going to give us the word. You say when, Buster.
Okay, I'll let you know.
All right. She's watching.
I'll sing a song, and then at the end of the song.
Okay.
Okay, ready? Koi, keles, pug, lod, koi, pug, be, pu, yapo, mapo, jeshu, vi, se, machu, meu, mashog, manaj, majok, shu, yembe, yemajak, wolf, ku, patresh, meshbe, jejo, kida, vapumati, muporek, mashutav, kumale, kumashufta, ma'o.
Boom.
All right.
And
Gomab.
Gomab wins tonight. Holy moly. Gomab. ATL.
Congrats.
Gomab. And he recognizes the Klingon on top of it. All right. Congratulations, Gomab. We see you in chat. Gomab, you know the routine. Drop us your Star Citizen name and email in our email. Drop it into soulcitizens@gmail.com, and we will get those out to you, my friend. Gomab is a great follower and sits in with us on Friday Night Live quite often, so he knows the routine here. I think it's the first time he's won something, though, so that's pretty cool. Okay.
If anybody wants to know what that song is, it's called "Here's Sons of Kahless," or the Klingon war song from Star Trek.
That's right. Sung by none other than Buster.
When you say like that, sorry. Mm-hmm. Oh, when you say like that, I'm tempted to just say, let's skip everything and go to Star Trek right now, but I know we have no order.
It's coming. We're going to be doing another giveaway in a little bit. And again, thank you all you nerds who came and joined us. Mad Style. Thank you, Mad Style, for another 500 bits. Thank you. We're going to be giving another giveaway. By the way, I neglected to say this earlier. Our giveaways are being done. They're sponsored through Test Squadron. Test Squadron is giving away our ships this week. So the first one that we just gave away was done by Test Squadron. I'm a member of Test Squadron. Fastcart's a member of Test Squadron. If you guys are interested in the org that is a bunch of crazy people but have a lot of fun, you guys should check out Test Squadron. Very, very good, cool group of people. They've been around for a long time. And so our other giveaway is also by Test Squadron as well. This one was done by Lefty. The other one is going to be done by Sethius. And that one, we're going to be giving away a ship that you can pick from. You could pick from anything that's between $100 and $140. And we'll run down the list of ships that'll be available to you. And they all have LTI. So you'll be able to pick which one you think benefits your fleet instead of us just kind of picking a ship and maybe you can't use it. So that'll be coming up in a little bit. Okay. Alrighty. Let's jump back into the fray. And what do we have coming up next? I can't remember where we're going. Oh, I know what we're going to go to now. We're going to go to our next category, which is... All right, Buster, ID4, Independence Day.
You know, it's to me, I wouldn't say I'd rank it very high on kind of these influential on Star Citizen kind of things, because it's so it's defending the Earth. It's like we're getting invaded kind of story. And obviously, like the ships they're flying are not actual spaceships. Mostly, they're like fighter pilots that are meant to work in atmosphere, as they were in that back then. And so, but I would say like maybe the human aspect of this story, like the people, like, you know, everybody kind of having to come together and sort of like work through something really awful. Maybe there's some elements of that part, because I think Star Citizen's lore is very, you know, it really is human focused in that, like, yeah, while we're like 900 something years in the future, we're still human. We're still very like, we got to do the things we got to do to make the things that we need to happen. And so I would say like the human aspect of this, and maybe even some of the costuming element in here is a little bit there, because like every time I see Will Smith in that flight suit, it kind of like there's a part of it that reminds me of Star Citizen for sure. But if I would like to see anything pulled from this, I would certainly like to see you know, people stealing alien ships they've never flown before while smoking a cigar. So that'd be pretty cool. And Jeff Goldblum. I mean, we always need Jeff Goldblum. So there you go.
Cool. Dark Knight, what about you?
Yeah, so I kind of agree with Buster here on this one, is that, you know, I don't see a lot being pulled, but I see, okay, so I was looking at the fighter scene and I thought about it, and that reminds me of some of the, you know, space battles that we're looking forward to, you know, kind of in the same vein.
Yeah, the canyon there, yeah.
Exactly. So I could see a lot of those kind of things coming on. Vandal versus humans, I think would be kind of one of those big alien versus human type of things where they're coming to invade us and they're taking no prisoners. But I think I saw Jade mentioned in the chat, big alien spaceships. We would like huge, massive, city-sized alien ships that we can just, you know, it's going to take like 3 or 4 or 5 javelins to try and get it down. You know, it's just going to be ridiculous. But that would be kind of fun. That would be fun to see.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Okay.
There's a few things there. Okay. Yeah.
Let me hit on something real quick, Sir Asawa. I know Cade mentioned about V, and we mumbled about the opening sequence there when the saucer appears through the clouds. It was very similar to what happened in V when their saucers appeared. And unfortunately, we can't cover them all, guys. Believe me, it was real hard for me to kind of whittle down to these. But V is not one that we will forget about. Trust me. And maybe at the end of the show, we can talk about it a little bit. Because we were talking about some of the other series that there were remakes of, and you know that we didn't get a chance to put on the list. But yeah, V is definitely one of those classic series that we could talk about as well. Fastcart, what about you on Independence Day?
Dark Knight mentioned big alien ship. I want to say the Vandal have a cutter. It's not a cutter. It's
the Kingship.
We've seen
the Kingship.
The Kingship, but I'm thinking of a different one. We saw a specific trailer for it. It's like 4 or 5 years ago.
The Driller.
Driller, thank you. That's what it is. That was a big ship. And that kind of it's not the design the same, but it's still in scale similar to that. All I gotta say is welcome to Earth. You know, the other stuff is the nukes. We haven't. I don't think they really mentioned tactical weapons in Star Citizen. So maybe that's something that they can bring in.
There is a ban. I think they said that they would not have nukes in Star Citizen.
Oh, that's what it is?
Okay. They're not going to have nuclear weapons in Star Citizen.
Good.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Also, for Squadron 42, I can imagine there's going to be a director's cut, like Independence Day. I watched the director's cut for Independence Day if you have it already. One thing that I do see as an influence, maybe not directly influence, but something of an influence, is inspirational speeches like the president gave it at the movie. The Bishop speech kind of reminds me of that. The Bishop speech from 2016, 2015.
Okay. Yeah, Citizen Shenanigans. A Moab, believe it or not, is not a nuke. The term from Mother of All Bombs that they've nicknamed it. But because I did a little research on them, they are pretty devastating, but nowhere near the level of a nuclear bomb. There you go. It's a gas air bomb. Thank you, GoMab. And so it ignites a certain height over the ground. It doesn't put a big imprint in the ground, but you've seen it. You already know what it does. The A2, we don't know what the real specs on that is going to be when it comes out. We just know that we've seen those really big, everybody called them Moabs, but we'll see what happens with them. As far as me for Independence Day, the thing I actually liked about this, and I love the fact that you guys mentioned about this big alien ship, But I love the fact that when and Star Citizen did this for a very short time. Some of you remember at one point, the NPC ships would come into atmosphere after you. I would love to see that start happening again, where we don't just run into them in space, but that now they come into atmosphere. Because now when you're in atmosphere, you kind of know you're safe. Also, the fact that when we see them in Independence Day, there's swarms of them. There are so many of them. So I would love to see that type of attack, whether it's Vandal or whatever. I want to feel like that. Yeah, that overwhelming odds kind of thing. Now, I'm not saying that should happen all the time, but I'm just saying I would love to see something like that. If you set up a military base and there's an NPC attack on your base that literally, and I don't know if they can be able to do this, but we're talking about like 50, 60, 100 ships that come in. And maybe you're on the ground in your base with guns and you're trying to fire from your ballistas and everything else. I would just love to see something like that happen in game. And of course, a weapon like this, I wouldn't want to see every ship like it, but I would love to know, those of you who played Eve, you remember what happened when a, what do we call those ships? The Titan would show up. Not a good thing. I would love to see some type of ship that was like a Titan, that when this thing shows up, you better hurry up and disable it or do something to it or get out, because if it ever fires its weapon, it's going to do devastation. And that's what we saw with the mothership do in IDI 4. So I would love to see something that's like powerful at that level. I think we lost Buster.
It's real good on
she just stepped away for a second. You okay?
I'm here. No, I'm here.
Okay.
I just accidentally hit the back button on my mouse.
Oh, that's okay.
I have a down side button.
That's okay.
And I happen to have that tab open. So
okay, no problem.
I'm back.
You're good though. As long as you're good. As long as you're good, no problem. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into our next big series here. And some of you may recognize this. I don't understand these people in chat that are just shooting down this Oscar award-winning film. I just don't understand. I just don't understand. I just don't understand. Okay, so let's start off with Buster. Buster, have you, first of all, have you seen the Wing Commander movie, Buster?
No, and by the way, my camera's still missing from the stream.
Oh, you know what? We may have to relaunch you then. Could you do me a favor and
yeah, whatever you need me to do.
Yeah, you probably have to just redo that link again. Let me hang on a second, guys. We're going to get Buster back. We don't want to lose Buster. Oh, there she is.
Yeah, I'm there. I just
it's not you. It's because it does that sometimes when it blanks. I'll put you in.
Okay.
Go ahead and talk, and I'll bring you in.
But yeah, I haven't seen Wing Commander. I would assume there's a lot of influence from Wing Commander and the Star Citizen, because good old Chris Roberts, doing both there. But I see things about it visually that it's hard to say if it's really an influence when the guy that directed and made this is the same guy. It's a little hard to say, because I'm sure, just a little. He knows he's gonna, we all knew. I think even I'm not somebody who knows a lot about these movies. Would assume that Chris Roberts is gonna pull from his own content from over the years. So visually, a lot of that there, but. And I can't speak to what I would like to see from it, because again, I haven't seen this one yet. Okay,
that's fair enough. All right, Dark Knight, have you seen it?
I think was there only one, or were there?
No, there's several. Yeah, there's a Wing Commander 3 and 4. Yes, there is
4 of these things.
Yeah, there is another Wing Commander.
No, okay. I think I saw one, the first one, and only once, and I don't remember if I enjoyed it or not, because I never watched it again.
Okay.
But obviously...
No, that's a clue.
Yeah, that's a clue. So obviously, there is... It's Star Citizen in a movie, basically, is what you're looking at. Obviously, he pulled all the influence out of, for the Wing Commander game, made the Wing Commander movie, is now moving on to Star Citizen, which was, quote-unquote, a sequel to Wing Commander. So, yeah... Tons of influence. Is there anything else he needs to pull from? No. Don't pull the acting.
Okay, don't pull the acting. Huh? Okay. FC, how about you?
I have seen this movie a couple of times. At one point, I want to make about this movie that this is the first movie with bullet time. You may think that the Matrix was, but this actually beat the Matrix by a few weeks. This one had bullet time in it. Influence, lore, obviously. This is heavily had the lore really baked into the movie. One thing that I'm interested in seeing. I'm not really interested. I'm curious. What do we see like religion in Star Citizen or Squadron 42? This movie had religious aspects in the movie, in the plot, and I'm interested if they'll pull that maybe. But one thing I think that they'll do is that we'll probably have a Chris Roberts cameo in Squadron 42 somewhere. That'll be fun.
Cameo in the
He's already in the game telling you like how to like kill dudes sometimes.
goodness.
Yeah, in this one, and the enemy in this was the Kilrathi. I think someone even dropped that in the chat, bring on the Kilrathi. And there's been, some curiosity about whether or not he will introduce the Kilrathi or a group that some people say that maybe the Kurthak are a version of that. We don't know.
Be the Kilrathi.
Yeah, but we don't know. But my point is, there's a question about whether or not, because we know there are going to be other alien races out there, and will this be someone that we discover that there is some tie-in to that universe? For those of you who've never seen it, if you didn't get a chance to play either the Wing Commander game, you can watch the movie in there. And the good thing about watching the movie is that you will see so much of the influence of what Star Citizen is. You'll see the way the command structure is, the way they talk. You'll notice a lot of reminiscent things. Even when you watch this one ship that lands and crashes, if you notice, it looks like a P-52, like a Mustang. And so there was a lot of influence from World War II aircraft that you see that is even in Star Citizen now, where they were influenced by real jets and real aircraft. Again, if you want a good place to start and say, where was Chris Roberts' vision when it came to what he wanted to see in space? Even though, yes, we realize it is not Star Wars, but he was heavily influenced by Star Wars. There was all types of movies at this period, whether it was the TV series like Buck Rogers and Battlestar Galactica, whether it was Star Wars. There was a lot of influences that were taking on at the time that these films came out. And you'll see a lot of things that are reminiscent of that of the time period. Anyway, as you can see there's an aircraft carrier, the same type of thing. Like I said, there's a lot of influences to what's in Star Citizen now that come from this particular one. I can literally
see this as Star Citizen the movie.
Absolutely.
It literally is.
Absolutely. Okay, let's jump to another favorite. Now, this one I'm embarrassed to say, when this was on, I never watched it. I think I watched it for the first time 3 to 4 years ago, and everybody used to rave about it. The two series I never watched was this and The Expanse, and I finally watched this, and I loved it. Okay, I'm going to cut that one on the volume. We'll let it play out. This is Firefly. Buster, were you up on Firefly? Did you?
A little bit, yeah. I watched some episodes of Firefly, and I think I saw the Serenity. I don't think I've seen the entirety of all the content revolving around Firefly. But one thing I would say right off the bat is I do think that I see the Carrick. I see you, Carrick. I see you in there. But I also would say like there's like in Star Citizen lore, like there's some stories, there's some little kind of series that they've been doing, and I think that there's definitely some characters that would reflect like the uniqueness of each person in this crew. I think it's one of the strongest points of Firefly. I think that's what makes Firefly as good as people like say it is just the uniqueness of each character in the on the board the ship. And I do think that there are characters. I would say there's definitely some characters in Star Citizen lore that I'm like, oh, they're like this person or like that person. So I do think there, and then also visually I see I remember watching the show and seeing like some of the places they flew over, whether it was a city or whatever, or even just a landscape, but I see some of that in Star Citizen too. So I do think there's like, I do think they want kind of that like style of like kind of you everywhere you go, kind of like there's a little bit of something like from each a different culture or like a different design style within human culture. And so I see that like there was a city that just went in this trailer that went by that reminded me of Microtech without the snow. There was another one that reminded me of like an outpost on like Daymar. I think there's a lot of like visual like scenery here that we're seeing that I would have definitely like seen some of that in Star Citizen. As far as what I'd like to see them pull out of the show is I like the idea of like a ship that's so lived in looking. That's one thing I really appreciate about the show was like just how lived in the ship was. It wasn't like this polished like origin kind of interior. Like it was very like had its nuances. And so I think I would like to see more of that kind of thing in Star Citizen. Is this ships that you can actually customize to look like more.
Okay.
Like you actually care, like you've been there for a while, like you've had it for years.
Okay. Cool. Dark Knight, what about you?
Yeah, Firefly series, great sci-fi series. And if it's one of those, if you haven't got a chance to see, I won't, fault you for not having seen it. But if you do get a chance to do so, it's a great series. I think there's a lot that has been pulled from this, but I kind of agree with how Buster put it together. It's really, there's a feeling aspect that comes out of this as well. I see like the ship interiors.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of the style of the ships that we have in games, similar to what I've seen in style-wise, coming from Firefly. I love the ground battles in Firefly, that I can imagine seeing in Star Citizen. Buster had mentioned the cities. Yes, you could see a Microtech, you could see Hurston there, you could see a Daymar, you could see so many different places in Star Citizen. It kind of also goes back to a few of the other films and movies and shows that we were talking about. Mm-hmm. I was also thinking about the smuggler's life or a pirate's life, the pirates being the reavers and the smugglers, they're smugglers, of living that lifestyle, that gritty, dangerous lifestyle, Wild West style, kind of aspect. And then the last one I was thinking of is with the different characters. I could see like the Pachinko character that we have in game. Mm-hmm. I could see that character growing out of, say, a Firefly environment. You're going down into the depths of behind the city walls, or some dark alley, and you go meet up with somebody who's going to give you a job. So I see a lot of story aspects. Detail, a lot of environment aspects and things like that coming from Firefly for sure.
Okay. Well,
anything else to pull from it? I don't. Not right now.
Okay. Very cool. Fastcart?
I'll be my bunk. No. One of my favorite lines in the series. I'm one of the people who didn't catch Firefly while it was airing. I caught it like two years later, and I deeply regret it, because maybe more people like me who fell in love with the series afterwards had watched it while it was airing and might have stayed on. Yeah. But the whole premise that they advertised it, they advertised it poorly. It was like they advertised the cowboys in space. I wasn't interested in cowboys in space, but I am interested in Firefly and Serenity, right? The promotion, but when I did catch it, I caught it in the episode in the proper order and not in the episode that it aired. Yes. So that's another thing you got to watch out for if you watch it later on. You mentioned the character. I want to say freelancer. I see the Serenity when I see the Serenity, I see the freelancer. But also, I saw his influence. Politics as well. Politics. You had the Brown Coat versus the Alliance. You can see that coming up between Terra and Earth. The merging cultures. China, America, and I have. You come into one big monolith. Not in the years in the future, they're probably not going to be as evident, but I'm pretty sure we'll see some, mixing of cultures. One thing I do hope to see from the movie is large-scale space battles like they had in the movie. Maybe not like space zombies or anything, right? But something along those lines.
Right. That's good stuff. I'm like you, Fastcart. I didn't see it till a few years later, and also I caught it when it was on Netflix running. But unfortunately, I didn't know the history until much later when I looked into it. Colossal, thank you for the Prime subscription. Boom Boom Banks, thank you for the follow. Cryptic Network Nomad, thank you for the follow as well. We didn't want to think we missed you guys. When Firefly came out, I caught it later. I did not know about the sequence order being off, and this is one of those classic examples of when the network overrides the writers and proceeds to do it their way, and it totally screwed it up. They were also competing against other shows. The time slot was terrible for it. There was just a lot of bad calls that they made for Firefly that would have probably made it a much more successful series. I love the fact that Ron Glass, Barney Miller, was on this series. That just blew my mind. But one of the things I liked about this that was very different was the fact that the characters were very different. And I mean in the sense that you had different people from different backgrounds. Oh my God, Colossal, thank you for the 5 gift subscriptions. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so that was something I liked. And I think you mentioned this earlier, Fastcart, about the fact that Ron Glass played this quote unquote religious person. You had the one woman who was the person who was not a sex worker, but she was like I don't know what she was. It was what ambassador. There all these different types of folks that were on the crew that I thought was really kind of unique. Now I will say this: the Reavers, the first time you ran into them, that was some spooky stuff. And I love that because we didn't know what they were, but I love that. And I want there to be these groups, even though we have lore to help us. I also want there to be things in the game that we don't know what the heck it is. We have to figure it out over time. So that's something I'd be looking forward to with this. But if you guys have not seen Firefly, highly recommended. Everybody here says, yeah, you should check it out. So definitely check it out.
Just keep an eye on the chronology. And like Omab was saying, this is, this was a period of time of sci-fi where a lot of good shows kind of either got lost in the shuffle or went under the radar, just couldn't make it. I think sci-fi TV was just having issues.
Absolutely.
Big time. I think Turner and all that. We can go to that.
I'm happy that they got to make a movie.
For Serenity.
To tie up the loose ends.
And just so you guys will know what we're talking about, Firefly was 12 episodes in that series, and then they made a movie called Serenity. Was it 13, Fastcart?
I think it was 13.
Okay, 13. Okay, let's jump in on this one. Battlestar Galactica. Some of you guys know that this is the second or the remake version of a series that came out during the late 70s, was it, Fastcart?
Yeah.
The original?
Late 70s, early
70s.
80s.
Yeah, the 70s and 80s. It was a very popular series. They went through several morphs, then went away. And then next thing you know, it came back. I think HBO picked it up, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Was it Sci-Fi?
Yeah,
was it Sci-Fi? They picked it up? Okay. So I hate to say this, someone bought me for my birthday the full collection. I have the whole Blu-ray collection up there. It is still sitting in plastic. I have not had a chance to watch it. Now I will say this. There were a couple times though where I turned it on, and because someone mentioned to me about how good the effects were. And I will admit, I was blown away when I saw the battle sequences on a few episodes. So let me go to Buster first. Buster, you want to talk about Battlestar, either the original series, this one, or a little bit of both, whatever one?
Yeah, Battlestar is one, yet again, that I am not quite as familiar with. I've seen some Battlestar throughout my life. It's just not been one I've focused on. But what I do remember of it and what I'm seeing too there is I would think that like some of that then you just mentioned it, the battles. I mean, those scream Star Citizen to me 100%. And then even the costuming, like their costumes, the way their costumes are made remind me of a UE costume. But overall, I'd say, like, again, I'm not as quite as an expert on this one. So but I do see a lot of, like, especially in the piloting and the battle sequences and the costuming. I really see a lot of like Star Citizen. I see Star Citizen gave it some love as well. Yeah. And of course we need is Trisha Helfer in Star Citizen. We just need her. It all. That's what I would like to see from. I would like to see from Battlestar and Star Citizen is Trisha Helfer.
Okay. Cool. Admiral, yes, trust me. I know it's the next one. When I finish the Clone Wars, I'm going to Battlestar, then I'm going to the Expanse. I'm honestly pushing through them. I'm in like the 5th season now of Clone Wars. Okay, Dark Knight. Go ahead, fill us in.
Yeah, man. So Battlestar is like on my yearly rotation. I watch the series at least once a year ever since it came out. It's one of my favorites. I want to echo what you just said, Buster, with the UEE. Very much military when it comes to Battlestar. It's very militaristically driven as far as how the operation of the ship and the structure of command and things like that. It's got a very, very strong military feel to it. And I could see echoes of that when you're thinking about UEE and military setups, and looks like I'm going pixels over there. But as far as I think there's a dramatic element that Star Citizen is probably pulling from Battlestar. It's very, very heavy, very dark, very it's got a lot of story depth there about what's happening and the destruction of the human race and things like that. I think there's some aspects of drama that they're going to be pulling in with stories and dynamic events, maybe similar to the Xeno threat Instead of having Cylons coming in trying to take out a space station, it might be a bunch of FanDuel or Xeno or whatever. Some things like that. But I don't want to go too much further because there's a lot of other things I see as I'm watching through this trailer here of things that are from, I see in Star Citizen that I see coming from Battlestar, the ship flights, the some of the ships themselves. I saw an Archimedes in there, I think. It's just little things like that, but yeah. Okay. So say we all.
Okay. FC?
I was just going to say that. So say we all. That's exactly how I was going to open up. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a remake or sequel in the works that's coming maybe 1 or 2 years from now. So look forward to that. Yeah. I watched both series, the 70s and 80s, and this one. My issue with the second one, the newer one, is that I have an issue with Battlestar. I don't like how there's in storyline I have issues with a foiler, and trying to mess things up for everyone else. Like everyone to cooperate. So that's why I would give it 4 stars out of 5. Just because of that aspect. I mean, some people like that, but I can see in Squadron 42 there may be like a Baltar character running around messing things up for my character. But one of the things I do like is that diversity. They had a very diverse cast. They had a woman president, and I don't recall that in sci-fi too much. Something I'm hoping that they'll pull from that BSG is that ship launching from capital ships. They do it a similar way as in BSG. I think that'll be good. As far as the Cylons, you have AI again. It's a common trope in sci-fi. But the thing I can see coming for Squadron 42 is that the Cylon attack brought everyone together in BSG. I can see the Vandal attack doing likewise in Squadron 42, especially with the Bishop Beast and everything like that. And, BSG, the remake, had a Cylon and human love story. Maybe there's a Vandal and human love story. No, I'm kidding. But, the flight model in BSG reminds me of the flight model in Star Citizen.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Let's think about that.
I think I'm going to reference the very first series because, like I said, I haven't watched the second series other than just a few clips here and there. The Galactica reminds me very much of an Idris for some reason. Every time I see an Idris, it reminds me of the Galactica. Yeah, I can see that. And then the other aspect of it was, the launching of fighters was another thing that I thought was very cool from inside the ship. I actually would love to see a race similar to the Cylons, something that is mechanized. I don't want to throw all the way back to the I don't want to go all the way back to like I'm talking about like synthetic. I'm talking about like the Daleks from Doctor Who. I mean, something that's just so cold-hearted, that's mechanical, that is soulless, that literally would be some type of enemy like that. I've just kind of had this weird thing about what happens when you run to some mechanized race that just, there's no emotion. They just have a goal and that's it. The Borg is a little bit too much still the human factor in there. I want something that's just totally mechanized that flips out, or Android. But anyway, the Battlestar Galactica, obviously very well loved series that was prior to the Expanse. A lot of people feel like that was the next level after the Expanse.
I think it started, it was the next level in sci-fi. It really was. I feel.
It was the only level in sci-fi for a while.
The other thing too is that what made these shows great was writing. Right. Even though the effects and stuff are there, it's the writing. And unfortunately, with a lot of series, if you remember in the very first Battlestar Galactica, it went off very, very well. It took off great the first season because they stuck with the sci-fi model. But what happened was the network said, oh, this is great. We want to expand our audience. And if you remember, they wanted to make it more family oriented. So they killed off the little kid's monkey. Remember that thing? And then Moffat popped up, the little robotic thing, and it just got dumb. So they need to stick to good writing.
Then they had a spin-off series that was on Earth, and everyone had superpowers.
Exactly. So they need to stick to science fiction, and I think that the things I would like to see imported again for me would be something like a race of mechanized folks, but that might be a bit of a stretch. Okay,
real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick, I forgot to mention that the jump drive in BSG kind of remind me of like when a ship jumps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big one.
Good one. That's a good one. Okay. All right, let's now this next one, somebody strapped down Buster. And so and you know, Star Trek is one of the longest running franchise, at least in the States, and of course it's globally. It's
the longest running American television franchise of all.
Exactly.
Syndicated. Other than like, you know, like something like The Tonight Show. But like
or Young and the Restless.
Fictional.
Right. But it's something that, you know, worldwide people know about. And it's the grand pop to Star Wars.
It'd be Doctor Who, right?
Yeah, Doctor Who would be the next one, right? Globally.
Yeah, Doctor Who.
Doctor Who has it
by a couple years.
Exactly. So let's talk about it, Buster. I know this is one of your heartfelt series. Give some thoughts.
Okay, so there's so much to Star Trek that even I could sit here and probably, like, if I really like took like a day or two, I could probably just sit there and talk to you about it for a couple days and Star Citizen. But like I would say, like the structure of the UE military reminds me a little bit of Star Trek. I think that's kind of between. It's somewhere between Battlestar Galactica and Star Trek, right? Because Star Trek, I mean, they both share that kind of Navy structure, that like nautical, you know, Navy structure. And I would think that, like, I would think there's a lot of landscaping that's similar between Star Trek and Star Citizen, like is the way planets look, the way things look. Of course, cinematic moments I think that we see in trailers or even in Squadron 42 trailers that kind of have like some similarities to Star Trek. I think that one of the things that we don't really talk about, but we should more often, is like that iconic aspect of Star Trek, right? Like the just how iconic it is. Like you were saying, it's like the grand. It's like the grand. It's even like, you know, it predates Star Wars. Like Star Trek is probably one of the most iconic American pieces of pop culture of all time. I mean, the whole convention culture started with Star Trek. Yeah. You know, fan fiction culture. I mean, fan fiction has been around for literally like hundreds of years, but fan fiction culture, as we know it now, started with Star Trek. So there's so many aspects of science fiction now that I think kind of benefit from, or like what Star Trek was, and how it reached and touched the rest of the planet and the world, and how it touched people in not only their hearts but their minds. And so I think that there's an iconic status that Star Trek holds, and I think that Star Citizen wants to have that iconic status. I think Chris Roberts, honestly, and his team at CIG, I do feel that like there's an aspect of Star Citizen that's, you know, maybe this is a meta conversation, but I do think that Star Citizen is going to look to be like the pioneer of a true like Second Life. I know there's a game called Second Life. I know there's VR chat. There's all these things, right? Or you can like go live as some other person. But I think that Star Citizen really has the potential to truly be that groundbreaker, and not just with the tech that they're custom making, you know, all these things that they're making for building their game, but in how people play it and how people regard it and how people, you know, live inside of it. And I think there is an iconicism, or whatever you want to call it. There's a certain level of icon that Star Citizen wants to reach, and I think that Star Trek is actually a really great place to look to find that. Okay. One thing that I like, some things I would like to see that are in Star Trek that you can find in Star Citizen. I think like Microtech kind of reminds me of maybe like the Federation Senate. You know, I think there's some aspects there. I think there's a lot of I'm trying to talk about things I want to see. I'm sorry. We're going back to things I know are there. But as far as I would like to see, you know, guys, I love Star Trek. I would love to see there be a race. One other thing. Sorry. The Tavaran remind me of the Klingons. I used to think that the Vandur were going to be the Klingons, but really it's the Tavaran. The Tavaran have like this honor. Because like remember the trailer for the Prowler, they're like honor, like glory were two of the most key like words in the Klingon like vocabulary, honor and glory. And so I do think the Tavaran are basically the Star Citizen Klingons. They're just feathery Klingons. But the thing is too is I think that of the things that Star Citizen can pull from Star Trek is that sense of community that is in Star Trek, not just the community out like around Star Trek as a property, but within the storytelling. I think there's so much community, like just the passion and the love between like people, or like the dynamics of relationships in Star Trek, I think are so wonderful, and is what makes it wonderful. And I really hope we get to see that in like Wing Commander and Star Trek or Star Citizen. So I'll shut up now because I can keep talking about this. So I want to hear from you guys.
Okay, no, that's good stuff. Thanks, that's good stuff.
No, it's fine.
Dark Knight.
Yeah, you know what? I want to just add on to what you said there, Buster, because you really put it poignantly about, you know, that there is something about living in Star Trek. Like I grew up on Star Trek. That was the show.
I wanted to live on the Enterprise. I wanted so bad, like to
That's
just like dream dreams at night to just take me to the Enterprise or something.
Like I have a 600i. That's my next generation Enterprise. You know, you know. I think about Star Trek when I think about Star Citizen, and you even mentioned Second Life. It's that kind of thing I was always looking for. When it came to a space game, my first thought was Star Trek. And I want to have, you know, my own Enterprise, but it doesn't have to be called the Enterprise. But I love the style of the next gen Enterprise when that was out. The idea of being in a massive universe and going from planets to planets.
So much.
And I can see elements keep coming into Star Citizen from Star Trek, and I want to see more. And there's so much Banu language and Klingon. I mean, there's so much, and I just want to add on to what you said there, Buster, because there's huge influence for me. I know it's a huge influence for so many people out there.
It's the most influential science fiction in our lifetime.
And I'm just glad to be able to say, oh, here's a game I can go into and feel like I'm got my own galaxy class ship and I'm going out there into the unknown and checking out your life and civilizations, you know.
Okay.
So I'll stop there and let you go here, Fastcart, because we could go on.
Yeah, we could.
FC.
I have been and always shall be your friend.
All the souls I met in my travels.
All the souls I met in my travels, his was the most.
Well, you give us your thoughts. We already know the movies. Tell us about your thoughts.
No, those are the only two I wanted to do. I like out of the whole Star Trek what do you call it?
Franchise.
That's it, franchise. Thank you. The new Trek movies outside of Discovery and Picard, I didn't really have a feel for them. I like everything. I even like Enterprise with the guy from Scott Bakula. But the new Trek aren't really my thing. But I enjoy them as pure sci-fi stuff, but it don't really feel Trek to me. But my best memory is from like the TNG third season, Best of Both Worlds, sitting on the edge of my seat, waiting for the episode to end, not knowing what's going to happen, and then it said to be continued.
I hate it.
But I've been deep in Trek. I read the novels. I think I've seen everything in Trek except for the Lower Decks. I haven't watched that yet.
Oh, it's so good. You gotta watch it. It's one of the most wonderful things that has ever happened in this world.
One thing I'm surprised that's not really in Star Citizen that I would probably wish they could put more into Star Citizen is the utopian future. Like there's no money, everything is like no hunger, stuff like that. But you do see that in Star Citizen. Like in 900 years. I would think that they'd be able to take care of that, but evidently not. And Chris Roberts, Legend of the Future. The other thing is Hull. He worked on Star Trek. There's a guy named George Hall. He worked on Star Trek. He built some of the ships, designed some of the ships in Star Citizen. So there is some crossover there. And finally, on my ship, I want a ship counselor.
Yeah, I forgot to mention I would also like there to be some Kirk Fu, where you just kind of hit an alien like that and it knocks him out.
Going on in the background.
I mean, imagine that being the melee move in Star Citizen. That would be one of the funniest trolls they could do to us, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
That would be funny.
Everybody, I need y'all to get on Spectrum and like just tag like Robert Space Industries on Twitter, and I really need everybody to be like, "Hey, we need this move in melee."
Kirk Fu. The Kirk Fu.
Yeah. Kirk
Well, for me, I would say, obviously, like Buster said, it's an iconic series. People are familiar with it. A lot of influences. The series inspired a lot of folks. Obviously, it inspired people who are working at CIG. The aspect of different worlds is a big factor with Star Citizen. Many of you all remember that years ago, CIG took out a survey asking people what was the main thing that they wanted to do. And surprisingly, where most people thought that maybe it would be PvP, the answer was exploration, that people wanted to do that. And so I think that Chris's vision of when he mentions, and we already know right now, the Stanton system is huge. It really is when you think about it. And we've talked about this before on the show. Nordic American, thank you. 5 months. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate that. Chris Roberts has talked about this systems of 100 systems, and I'm blown away at that number personally. I know there are other games that came out like No Man's Sky and Elite that talked about thousands, if not millions of systems, but the reality of it is, Headshot, thank you for the follow, thank you so much. But the reality of it is that based on the scale that they've developed this game, if we get 50 systems, it's a huge amount of real estate. And so the idea,
the scale they were going at.
Yeah, exactly. So over a period of 5, 10, 20 years, let's say 20 years, but let's say at least 5 to 10 years, if they build toward even 50 or 80 systems, it's going to be amazing. And to know that we have that to explore. Now, this is where my difficulty comes in. We've got a show coming up that's going to be talking about this later, but this is the thing that bothers me. Fastcart and I have been deliberating about this title for a show, and I keep trying to come up with the right answer for it, but it's like, are you Starfleet or are you, I don't know, Space Marine, or are you whatever? But what I'm trying to convey is this. I
thought we decided on something.
Yeah, but I know, but it still isn't. Remember, I told you it's still not completely what I want. That's about as close as we got. But my point of what I'm trying to say is this: many of the space games that are out there right now have been so focused around trade, cargo, and PvP, combat, even particular, right? But the idea of exploration being the cream that rises to the top is something that I miss. One of the reasons why when we watch, and Fastcart touched on this a little bit, when we talked about the Star Trek universe, I'm not saying you need to have the perfect universe, but there is a part of me that wants to move beyond the primitive, for lack of a way of putting it, and move us into a different space where we're collaborating and working together. Because my attitude is there's plenty of enemies out there. I'm tired of fighting against humans personally. I'd rather find reasons, like you mentioned earlier, Dark Knight, for reasons for the UEE and people to unite and have a common cause to fight against, than that every time I fly my ship, I've got to worry about another human killing me. That's just me personally, right? I'm not talking about piracy. I'm not talking about piracy. I'm talking about just the indiscriminate things that when you have this big sandbox playground to work in, and if the most we see is just shooting each other, that bothers me. And so I want to be able to, when we get into the game and when players get into the game, to see a much bigger opportunity for discovery. And so I want Star Citizen. But mind you, if Star Citizen doesn't offer that, then that's what's going to happen. You know, we're going to digress to just being the typical shoot 'em up and fighting each other and see how many shots I got into a leaderboard. I want it to be so that when we're getting in there, we're thinking about, man, remember when we went into such and such system last week? Remember what happened when we were there? I mean, that's what I want to see. And that's what I want about Star Trek. Star Trek opened that up, right? It gave us that feeling of exploration and seeing beyond, or very seldom did they ever go back to Earth and Soul.
And I was just about to say,
Yeah,
like, to add to your point, is like a lot of the problem that people have with like some of the more recent iterations of Star Trek, whether it's like the newer movies that remade the originals, or it's like the newer Star Trek shows. A lot of the time that people complain about, one of the biggest complaints I always see is, well, it's all action. It's not like Star Trek where it's like, you have episodes where you sit there, like people are actually like trying to work out a problem, and like I think it's one of the strengths of Star Trek is it never has to rely, or it shouldn't have to rely on a lot of action. It's always fun when those are around, but I think that's one of the greatest strengths of Star Trek, and I would say that's kind of like poignant you say that, because that's kind of what people want out of Star Citizen, is that diversity of things to do, like they get that diversity of like plots and episode types of Star Trek.
That's a good point. Yeah. Good point.
Griff, so you were mentioning, I just want to touch on, you were mentioning the Elite Dangerous and No Man's Sky and the size of the galaxies. I will tell you one thing. At least in Elite, I can actually follow the path of the Discovery from all the way out the Delta Quadrant back down to Earth.
Very cool. Very cool.
So at least I know I can actually
do it. Yeah, you can actually do it. Right.
Actually do it.
And I guess, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with having it. It's just that, when we first heard about these systems, it's like, in reality, can you explore all that? Not really. You know what I mean? It sounds impressive, but the reality of it is
that's the point.
Right. No, I know it's not, but I'm just saying there are a lot of people who oohed and ahhed when they heard that No Man's Sky had, billions of systems. Like, dude, you can't even see billions of systems, But anyway, that's a whole nother story. All right, we're on our very last episode, our last one and we're going to talk about our honorable mentions, and then we're going to get into our giveaway. So you guys hang around for the giveaway, because the giveaway is coming up. And this is our final one, and it's another classic. There's a remake coming out for this, Dune. Classic, Frank Herbert, well-known author. Buster, did you ever see Dune, and any thoughts on it?
I've not. I've kind of seen like clips and pieces of it throughout my life. It's kind of one of those movies I've like watched, but not quite like in disjointed pieces, and never watched all the way through. But right off the bat, like what's that drug they take?
Spice.
Or spice. Yeah, spice. Spice. I'm in a group called The Spice Must Roll.
Actually called melange, but
melange. Spice melange.
Yeah, spice. Like kind of like how it affects, like it makes their eyes blue and things like that. I know that kind of thing always reminds me of like Widow. Like how Widow will make your veins, like it kind of has an effect on you. I'd say visually I can see some stuff. I know that there's like a big worm in this. We kind of talked about that. Worm. Yeah, there's the big like sandworm, and I know that they want to have one of those in Star Citizen, so there's obviously an influence there. I do like. Again, this isn't something I've quite seen all the way through. I know that there's a lot of like it influences a lot of things, and I know there's a book, all the stuff, but I do think that there's probably like something to be said also about. Oh shoot! I just had it in my head and I lost it. I'll probably come back to it later. But what I would like to see from Dune in Star Citizen, just what's his face?
Sting?
The guy, Sting from the police with that weird hair and all that. And then that weird underwear that I know he wears at one point. Just to have some crazy guy like walking around on one of the cities, and it's just Sting. That would be funny. But anyway.
Lorville.
Okay. Fair enough.
Lorville.
But just add 18 vertical. He'll fulfill that role for you immediately.
I don't know. I mean, I like how hairy HD Vertigo is, but I don't know if everybody else would. So, and I know he's hairy. I know he's a very hairy boy.
Dark Knight, how about you, Dune?
Yeah, you know what? Dune's one of those great sci-fi shows. It's or films and books. I'll admit I have not read all the books, but I have. The films obviously were classics. And there's a lot of aspects we could see in Star Citizen. Lorville obviously is a nice one, but I see, it's along the same lines as I see with Blade Runner when it comes to this dystopian, universe that we're living in, the grittiness, not Wild West, I want to say, but it's that kind of coming off the smuggles type of thing. Mentioning the spice melange. I like how you put that as widow, Buster. Is kind of that feeling of widow. That's a really good connection, and as you were saying that, it made me think about that. That's could be that smuggling drug, type of thing, field from, the stories that we see from Dune, but. Classic sci-fi. I don't know if there's much that I can think of to pull from it off the top of my head right now, because a lot of it I could see pulling from other films that we've talked about, other things that we've talked about. And again, I'm kind of going back to Blade Runner in a way, almost even some Alien in there now that I think about it too. So
about the same time.
Those are my thoughts. Yeah, about the same time. Yeah. Okay. So I could definitely see something pulled from there.
Okay. Yeah. FC?
First thing I come to mind for me personally, voice attack. Even though I know there's a separate product that you can get aside from Star Citizen, but you have voice attack in Dune. So hey, that's one direct influence, perhaps. One thing I noticed it a long time ago, but the trailer ultimately sticks out, is the lack of diversity. Like in a universe of billions of people, there are no people of color or black people, and evidently in the Dune universe. So that's one thing I don't want to see in Star Citizen or Squadron 42. But other than that, I like the wardrobe. I could see like a lot of the wardrobe in Dune having a place in Star Citizen. So I think that could work.
Okay. Well, the fact that it was shot over in L Street Studios probably has a good feeling. I don't know if it was shot there or not. A lot of Europeans, so the diversity may not have been there back when this was made back then. Yeah. Obviously, I think Buster touched on the fact of the sandworm. Really big deal. Of course, back at was it CitizenCon 2016? 80s. Was it 2016? It was 2016 when they revealed that, and everybody went crazy because obviously people remember that from Dune being a kind of a tribute to Dune. For me, this one had a lot of political intrigue involved in it. And I know we've talked about the fact that politics has kind of had its weight. I wonder sometimes the fact that we're already talking about politics in a game that's in alpha, what that means. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm saying, why would they be introducing it at this point? You would think that'd be something like after the game comes out, but they're already talking about elections and having us vote. And I remember in Eve that we had elections and stuff in the game at that point. But to me, because the lore is so deep in this game, or will be, I'm wondering whether or not we will really see how that our voting is just not something that's being done, that it really will mean something in game. And so this one was based on some political intrigue that was going on in relation to this of controlling economics. For me, what comes from this that I would want to say is the fact that it was epic. At the time when this came out, this film was epic, and Star Citizen is kind of pushing into that same avenue that when Chris Roberts, when we go places, he wants it to blow our minds. And I'm not just talking about visuals in the sense of graphics, but I'm talking about the actual content that's there. Just recently, when they did this last push on the mining, for example, I'm a miner. I love mining. And I honestly thought that after we got consumables that we were going to start wrapping up mining and they would move on to something else. I didn't expect that this new component for passives would come out. The fact that they're, paying attention to creating a lot of depth that what we're going to do in the game. And I hope they do that for every career. I don't care if it's bounty hunting, if it's medical. I mean, we just saw it with medical this last week. We just saw the multi-tool unfolded the other day with all these new facets, the medical pieces. So that's what I want to see. And I know a lot of people say, well, why are they spending so much time? But we haven't.
They want to make those fleshed out. They want people
but not just, but Buster, not just that it's fleshed out. We've been so dumbed down in gaming for so long. You know what I'm saying? It's like like a simple pick up a med pack. Pick up a med pack and that's it.
The guy.
Right. Pick up a med pack and you heal. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the fact that we can now be thoughtful about what we do means something to me.
And how we do it and what tools we use to do it with.
Exactly. So it's going to take time, and I know that's very frustrating because we've kind of gotten into, like you said, instant gratification. But the fact that this is different, don't compare this to what other developers are doing or have done. If that's the case, you're going to be disappointed. And I know, listen, I'm an old guy. I don't want to die before this game comes out, guys. But I'm just saying I'm willing, if it's going to be what they say, then I want the epic aspects. This level of epic is what I would love to see that comes out of Star Citizen when it's all said and done. So those are all good points, guys. You guys shared some really good stuff. Let's go ahead and talk about our honorable mentions, if that's okay. Because I do want to hit that real quick. So Buster, I'm going to start with you. What would you have for honorable mention, a sci-fi that we didn't talk about that you would love to, you saw some inspiration from or you'd love to see included?
Like Ender's Game. I think the aspect in Ender's Game of like kind of the way when they get to the point of the book where they're like playing like that game where he's kind of like learning to sort of be an EVA. I think that would be like, I would love to see like maybe EVA sports or just EVA, like more EVA, like heavy or activity. I would also mention real quick too, Stargate, the movie, and maybe the series.
Yes.
Not super into the series, but like I loved the movie. I loved everything about the movie. I don't necessarily think like a Stargate itself, the concept of a Stargate works in Star Citizen, but who knows? Maybe
Jumpgate.
It kind of goes back to the idea of us talking about like there being like alien artifacts that we find, and maybe like there's something that's triggers in that sector, like it triggers something epic, and it like kind of goes back to your epic. I think there's a lot like you could take a lot from that too, and I love anything with James Spader in it. So
that's a great idea though, Buster. That's an awesome idea. I love that. Yeah. Okay, Dark Knight. What about? Go ahead. You got something else? Go ahead, Buster.
No, I'm saying I could probably think of something else, but not off the top of my head. So
okay, now I love that Stargate idea. That's very cool. Okay. Oh, you know what? But you know what, Buster? We did have, was it Sata Ball at one point? That was something that we were doing at one point back in the day, and that disappeared.
2015.
You know, it was the whole EVA competition thing that just kind of disappeared.
I didn't realize that was Sata Ball was like EVA.
So. Yeah. Dark Knight.
That's interesting.
How about you? What you got for honorable mention?
You know what? Because Buster had already mentioned Stargate, and that was one that that was on the top of my mind. It wasn't so much about the tech and things like that. It was just something about the aspect of exploring and going all of these different places and finding things. And I think that level of exploration, like we were talking about with Star Trek, is something that drew me to these kinds of games, is exploring itself. But there was one, I don't know why it popped up in my head. We were thinking about honorable mentions. Starship Troopers. I don't know why. Don't ask me why, but I think it's that the bugs and just having these all aliens, type things, just like we were talking about the worms. But having something like that, it's just like these all-out alien creatures that just come at you, and you have to really kind of put together a team to take them out. You're going to have ground vehicles and ballistas, and it's just all sorts of, you might even have a bunch of P-52s flying overhead trying to blow up the worms or the space bugs.
Isn't Starship Troopers kind of like a commentary or satire?
It's satire.
Like just military, like
straight up military jarheads, type of thing.
I'm doing my part.
What's that?
I'm doing my part.
I think people give that movie like a lot of like, oh wow, it's such a good movie, and it's like but they miss the point of it. They miss like the messaging of it.
But it is like the big spug. Coming at you. You've got the huge army that has to be taken care of, that has to take them out. I could think of like Idrises and javelins trying to hammer down on bugs on the surface of Hearst or something like that. Would be hilarious.
Okay, very cool. Fastcart, honorable mention.
So I have a few, but I'm keeping them short. So I'll keep them within the time frame of everyone else. First of all, I want to say Babylon 5 and Space Above and Beyond, because they have 6 degrees of freedom fighting. I could see that influence in fighting, and like the flight mechanics and stuff like that. The other thing is, the last thing is baseball. Merchandising.
Baseball.
Is that it? For those only two you got?
Wait, Spaceball?
Yeah, because I'm not like. Have you seen how the marketing? The marketing and for Star Citizen is for a game that has not released yet. Merchandising. I looked at the page for merchandise, physical merchandise, a few days ago. They had like 20 different items for a game that's not even released yet. You can buy baseballs. Oh yes,
baseball. And I'm like, what's that? Like,
hey, no, baseballs.
Yeah, the space ball. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Believe it or not, I don't really have one. You guys have kind of covered a lot of them. I know there is one film that was very influential for me. There were a couple of them actually, but they're the classic stuff from the 1950s. And Forbidden Planet was one of them. Forbidden Planet, if you remember the whole thing with the Krell, they were the civilization that is extinct. We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. But they were way more advanced than anybody ever imagined, right? And if you remember, if you haven't seen the story of it, guys, if you haven't watched Forbidden Planet, you're missing a classic. Make sure you watch it. But I love the fact that there was this aspect of mystery of finding this place, and that doctor spent 20 years trying to figure out what the place was. So I would love for us to, as we mentioned earlier, to stumble across, I think you said it, Buster, stumble across some ancient civilization that is high technology, but maybe no longer there, right?
And it triggers something.
It triggers something. Yeah. What happens if we start figuring out, what this stuff is or having access to it? And maybe this becomes a great point for people who are traders, people who are running the Banu merchantman ships, who are able to, use that and sell technology, whatever the case may be. But then there's also some danger. It's not just laying there. There's some issues of when you get there, what it takes to get it, whether it's protected, whatever the case may be. But I would love to see just something along those lines. Cade, talk to Standard Dev. He was talking to me about the Ringworld novels earlier. I'd never heard of them, but it sounded very intriguing.
I've heard of them.
He's really into that.
Yeah. Okay. And I saw Army in there. It was talking about Lost in Space or Doctor Who. Yeah, there's so much good sci-fi out there that has influenced all sci-fi. And it's just like they influence each other. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think you could even almost do a show on non-sci-fi that kind of that you think has influence or similarity to Star Citizen, like non-sci-fi, things that like maybe superhero stuff or whatever. Like you could as a group things that you think may have like even World War II stuff. That might be a good place.
Yeah. Jade, very good point. Yeah, the Hades system is one of those places that you're right, where that advanced species exist. The Hadesians, I don't know how you pronounce it, but yeah, they were destroyed itself through their global war. So yeah, there is lore that kind of supports some of the things that we've talked about.
And that's where Venefica is from. Yep. If y'all remember Venefica.
Yep.
That was like the same day. That's why I had that big wig on that day. Because I did Venefica earlier that day when we did it. Anyway.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I'm curious. I had the measurement behind me, but this is like the original concept, not the concept that came out like 4 years ago. But I'm interested, like what influences of this concept came, because I mean I can see it, and it's like on the tip of my tongue, or like tickling my brain. Like I can see some influence from different sci-fi. It feels kind of Geigerist. It feels kind of other stuff too. So I'm like I'm really interested in that.
Wow. Wow, did you say that? Now, did you say that? I do see something in there as well. I do. There's something about it. Maybe some pirate ship, Reaper ship, or something. I don't know. I see it. Yeah.
And another mention, honorable mention, Mars Attacks, guys. Like,
classic.
Why are we talking about Mars Attacks?
Classic. That's classic.
I need to watch that again. I hated that movie when I was a kid.
I hated it too.
I hated it, but I love it now. I bet it just cracked me up.
I mean, you can have all the celebrities and cameos and stuff like that that are happening.
There's Brosnan, like on the little Chihuahua head, on the Chihuahua body, that always cracked me up.
Yeah.
Anyway. Don't we have another giveaway to do?
That's what we're getting ready to do. I was just waiting for you guys
I have another song for you.
To go. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Give me 1 second here. All right. Fastcart, could you let them know what the deal is on our next giveaway, please? That would be great.
I gotta look it up.
You gotta remember?
We're giving it's not up there.
You remember?
Oh, it's people's choice, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the people's choice. There'll be your choice between a ship between $140 and $155.
No. 100 to 140. 100 to 140.
100 and 140.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 100 and 140. So that's like between the Cutlass to a Vulture, I believe. So anything, including those or between those, you can pick, and it'll be LTI, because we'll be cross-chasing from a LTI token to that ship.
Mm-hmm. And you want to put an exclamation point free ship exclamation point free ship. If you are interested in getting
right?
this,
With
yes,
a P,
yes,
right?
with a P, free ship.
Free ship.
So you guys, if you are interested in this one, oh, why does it say mods? What the heck? Hang on a second, guys. All right.
Hold on.
Hold on 1 second, gang. Hang on. It was doing some dumb stuff.
Only.
All right, you can put in again. You won't be disqualified.
Okay.
Make sure you
Everybody
guys
who entered it, redo it.
Yep, exclamation point free
redo
ship.
it if you did it already.
Exclamation point free ship, and we will get you guys in. Let me see. Am I seeing all these names here? Go Mab, I'm not seeing you. Do it again, please. You got missed on that last time. Let's see if I see you.
Colossal, no. Colossal, no.
Get Colossal out of there.
No, Colossal, no.
Yeah, get him out of there. All right, let's see. Did Go Mab do it again? Because I saw him put it in once.
Keep them coming.
You guys keep it going.
I see Colossal.
He's being funny. Don't pay attention to him. You know what? This thing is acting dopey. Hang on a second, guys. I don't know why all these names are not popping in for some reason. All right, give me 1 second, gang. I'm sorry. For some reason or other, Nightbot is having its own relapse. So stop punching in. I'll let you know when.
It wouldn't be a Star Citizen or a Soul Citizen.
I don't know what the heck is going on.
Pups.
It's Weedle.
All right,
Weedle had to come
here
by.
we go.
Thank you, Buster. That'll increase our views by 10 views just by
There we go. All right, exclamation
Right
point.
there.
Exclamation point free ship now, gang. Everybody,
All
once
right,
again,
everyone, do it
please.
again.
Everybody, once
And
again,
no
please.
Colossal, still know the year.
Yeah, that's all right. Colossal being funny. Exclamation point free ship. This is going to be for any ship of your choice between $100 and $140.
Even if you entered it in already,
you know what?
do it again,
I'll
just in case.
Can I raise it up one more notch to 150? Yeah, I'll raise it one more notch to 150. That brings you all the way up to a constellation. Okay, a Taurus.
The Taurus, yeah.
So
So
let me
if you
tell
get
you.
the Taurus, you get 3 steps in one.
Let me tell you.
Right.
Let me
Two
tell you what
steps, two
ships.
steps.
Let me tell you what ships you'll be eligible for. Cutlass Black, Hornet F7C, Freelancer, a Hornet Ghost, a Freelancer Dur, a Cutlass Red, a Hornet Tracker, an Anvil Ballista, a Freelancer Max, a Constellation Taurus, and a Mantis as well. Now this is going to be once again sponsored by Test Squadron. This is from Sethius from Test Squadron. Test Squadron is doing the wonderful support and sponsor for this one, so we want to plug them because this is due to them. As you guys know, everything that comes in, we turn right back around to the community. So
Yeah, there's some great choices in there, people.
yep, there's
Great
plenty of
choices
variety there
ships.
for you guys to pick, and it does come with LTI. This is an LTI package. So all right, Buster, you wanna break into dance for us,
Yeah.
or a song for us?
Yeah,
and we're gonna
because you mentioned George Powell, right?
Yep.
So if you know this song, everybody, everybody should know this song.
Oh my goodness.
But Michael Rennie was ill the day the earth stood still, and he told us where we stand. And Flash Gordon was there in silver underwear. Claude Rains was the invisible man. Then something went wrong for Fay Ray and King Kong. They got caught in a cellular jam. Ugh, okay, Weedle, I'm sorry. Then at a deadly pace, it came from outer space. And this is how the message read. Science fiction, double feature. Dr. X will build a creature. See androids fighting Brad and Janet. And Francis stars in Forbidden Planet. Whoa, at the late night double feature picture show. I wanna go. Whoa. There you go.
Boom, here we go. And the winner is Cade, 7596. Cade.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Yes, seriously, Cade. Seriously, Cade.
And he's the first one to respond, too.
All right, congratulations,
Congrats.
Cade. All right, so Cade, again, anything, and you can check on the Star Citizen website, anything that's between 100 and 150, you can let us know. Please be sure to use your Star Citizen name and Star Citizen email. Send it to soulcitizens@gmail, soulcitizens at Gmail. That way we can correspond with you and let you know when your ship is on its way. And we really appreciate that.
Soul Citizens with an S at the end, right?
Yes, with an S. Soul Citizens with an S on the end.
Soul Citizens.
Yes.
It's plural.
That's it.
Not singular.
Well, listen, we took in a lot of stuff tonight, and we had a lot of fun talking about some of our favorite shows and series and franchises and all that good stuff. And we want to say thank you, a special thank you to Buster. Buster, who's your friend with you, Buster?
This is Weedle.
Weedle.
Lulu.
Weedle. So we want to thank Buster. Buster, tell people where they can find you.
Oh, yeah. You can find me here on Twitch, twitch.tv/BustertheDestroyer. My schedule's been a little out of whack lately because I've been sick, but also I've had kind of more things coming up on weekdays when I usually stream. So I'll probably have a day off this week, too, for my normal schedule. But you can find me on there pretty regularly, like about 4 days a week, usually Tuesday through Thursday from like 5 p.m. Central to 11 p.m. Central. And then on Fridays, I try to do like a daytime kind of stream. Sometimes I try to stream Sundays. And then also right now we've done like 2 episodes of Star Trek Vasquez on Saturdays on the Astro Pubs channel, who's also a Star Citizen streamer. And we've been doing that on Saturdays. That's like where we play Star Trek Adventures, which is a tabletop role-playing game. So it's like Dungeons and Dragons, but Star Trek version. And on that, I play Commander Baaj, who is of the KDF, but she has been forced into the Klingon Federation officer exchange program, and she's dealing with it. But anyway, I play her. She's the XO of that ship, and that's like one of my favorite things like I ever in the world have done. And we're gonna do episode 3, I believe, this weekend. So we skipped this week, this current weekend that we're in, but we'll be back next week to do episode 3. So come join us, and if you haven't watched it before, look us up on YouTube. The Spice Must Roll is the name of our group. We do other sci-fi TTRPGs such as like The Expanse, which I'm also in. They have a Star Wars one. They have one based on Stars Without Number called Great Topaz. And there's always new ones we're adding. And I'd like to run a Klingon game. There's a version of Star Trek Adventures that's specifically through the lens of the Klingon Empire. So I'm working on perhaps running one in the future for just the Klingon Empire. But anyway, please come see me, and please come watch us do Star Trek Vasquez and other things. Really love doing it. It's one of my favorite things in the whole world.
Okay. Awesome.
Awesome.
Dark Knight, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me here at Soul Citizens. I come on frequently now, and then Friday Night Lives, of course, when we go hang out with all of you and chat, and we discuss Star Citizen, the week in Star Citizen, and have some fun just getting down there. I do have a YouTube channel. I don't upload that often, but what I do, I usually try to just upload some things that I'm playing around with, coming up with different concepts and things like that, but usually just playing around. Yeah, you can find me there. But otherwise, yeah, you can find me in the verse, Dark Knight 75.
Awesome. And last but not least, fastcart.
You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/fast_cart. You can find me on the Base Radio on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. where I'm on with Miss Hart, the 80s show. The Base had some issues recently. There was a fire at the computer center. So all the information should be there, and I don't know if anyone's hurt. I hope no one was hurt, but we should be back on the 22nd. So hopefully we'll be back in time for her show. But I do want to announce that in April, the anniversary of Prince's death, we'll be doing an all Prince show. So look forward to that. I'm also on Table of Horrors. Well, not recently, but you can find me there in Quick Chat, and I think that's it right now.
Okay, not bad.
Real quick, Griff, sure. I wanted to give a shout out for Galactic Enterprises Incorporated. That's our small org here, and there's quite a few of our guys are here in the chat. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them. And if you guys are interested in a smaller industrial type org, you can always contact me and or one of the other members there. But just wanted to quick shout out,
Okay, no problem. Buster, I had to put you back in. I changed screens, but we had the old screen down, so I can't leave you.
Hey, I was wondering what's going on.
I can't. Let me see. I
Like
can't.
everybody
Yeah, we
disappeared.
can't. Yeah, I know. And I was like, no, we can't not have her on for the end of the show. That's not going to work.
Right.
All right, listen, guys. Thank you guys so much. I'm Griffin Gaming RPG. We really appreciate you. It's a longer show than normal, but we had a lot of fun tonight. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We appreciate everybody who subscribed, who followed tonight. We're going for our 1,000 subscribers hopefully pretty soon. Wow, who was that who just did that? Tribal Raid, thank you for the follow. And I didn't say Army Tim 2002. Thank you as well for your follow if we missed you earlier. Again, we appreciate you all. Congratulations to those of you all who won on the giveaway. Don't forget to send us your information. Trip Rodriguez, thank you, Trip. We appreciate the follow too. Even if it's late, we appreciate it. Trust me, we really do. And we look forward to seeing you guys, pretty soon, next week. As always, we're going to do our raid. But as always, we want to tell you guys, love, peace, and soul. And let me, I put the wrong link in there. Y'all don't pay no attention to that link. That was the wrong link. I was trying to send, I know, isn't that terrible? They'll all pop into our Discord now. I mean, our video rather now for doing that. I know, I hit the wrong
So they still
copy.
need password, hopefully. So hopefully we won't mess this up.
All right, we're going to be rating Soil Pappy. We've rated him before. He's a fairly new user, but we're going to send a shout out to him. You all say hi to him, make him feel real good. Stay in there for a few minutes. If you like what you see, follow him. And again, love, peace, and soul. You guys take care. Have a great week. Stay safe.
Bye, everybody.